walked through sunshine, we stood in rain. We've danced in joy and we've wept through pain. Through every valley, through every climb, a love eternal stands the test of time. Faith, fun, and forever love, built on grace sent from above. There's storms that shake through skies that clear. His hand has held us year by year.
Hello, hello, hello.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back by popular demand, as always, on your Monday Madness to bring some civility to your Monday Madness and help you to live your best happily ever after. Once again, we want to say welcome to Marriage Encounters with Bill and
Michelle.
Yes. Whether you're joining us live or listening on the podcast, we are glad that you decided to spend this part of your day with us. And I promise you, it's going to bless you.
And speaking of live encounters and making sure that they are listening to the podcast, we want you to join us. The podcast comes on right before us, and it's the week after, if that makes sense. It is Conversation Radio. And if you go to Marriage Encounters Facebook page, you can see the link there to get to those. So if you miss a week or you're, can't go live with us, go back, listen to the podcast, and it is 1 week behind. Okay. So whatever we did last Monday, that was what's showing on. That is what's what you can hear. You can't see it. You can hear it, but it is what you can hear from you and this juice. It is what you can hear from last week. Okay. If that makes sense. All right. So again, I'm Chauvin, and we've spent a bit of this series talking about built to last, and we've talked about the heat is on. We've talked about just kind of making sure that things are correct, and we are just really looking at how do we make sure that our families
that we leave a legacy and not just a marriage.
This might be right. Keep going.
So the question has to be, what are you building on? Are you building on firm foundation that will make an everlasting footprint, or at least provide a blueprint for future generations of what a good marriage can be and can look like? And sometimes in marriage, we always know that there's ups and downs, there's challenges, but one thing is for sure, that if you keep God first and you keep working together as a team, it is always teamwork, right? Now, I know they say teamwork makes the dream work or something like that. I don't know. But what I do know is that in this thing, it's two against the world, okay? And so understand, when it's two against the world, as long as you focus on the main things concerning your marriage, which is building each other up, encouraging one another, speaking life into one another, praying for each other, and being able to handle disagreements quickly, I think you'll be all right. All right. Because in marriage, pressure comes in different levels and different volumes. And so sometimes you feel like you're under a wave of pressure. And sometimes everything seems like it's on easy street. I know yesterday, I felt like that. Gum, I need to go take a nap somewhere. Because we just had to go. And, most of you know me well enough that I just not going to live my life like that. I'll tell people no in a minute. Why? Because I'm going to go sit at home. Yeah. So, but yesterday was a go day. And man, by the time evening came, I'm like, man, enough of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
And actually, because it was a go day, it made me a little snappy on yesterday. Just a little bit, maybe a little snappy. And so I had to go back and tell my wife, I forgot how I phrased it, but I wasn't trying to come at you. I'm just tired, and this is not how I want to live my life going like this. So it wasn't her. It's just something that I don't want to do. And when I'm under that kind of pressure to have to go like that, then, I'm going to get a little snappy, because that is, I'm just not, I refuse. Let me say it like this. I refuse to let other individuals dictate and suck up all my time.
Yeah. And
They
I
don't
think,
have to.
and I think
Yes,
when we're thinking about that, when we're thinking about what does that look like, sometimes we have to turn the temperature down. We've been talking about the heat is on. We know that it's hot. We know that, it's hot all over the United States. There's just, there's all kinds of things that are going on. But between the two of you, just like you said, hey, I was a little heated. And it didn't really have anything to do with us. It didn't really have anything to do with us. It was just the schedule. It was the pressure. It was all of the things that have happened. And sometimes in your marriage, that's literally how it is, that the pressure and the heat, when we think about, something as simple as diamonds are created by pressure. They look beautiful, but they had to have a lot of pressure. When we think about something that's precious like olive oil, it takes lots and lots and lots of olives that have to be crushed, that have to be pressed in order for that elixir, if you will, to come out. So when we're thinking, yeah, bees. I mean, there's so many things in nature that if we truly tune in, if we tune in to what nature really is teaching us, it's teaching us that it takes pressure. It requires that. But when we have that pressure, how do we handle it? Do we get overheated? Do we get, do we blow a gasket? What happens when we get overheated?
Right, because the reality is in marriage and in life, it can get hot sometimes, and I'm not talking about that other kind
the
of
good
hot.
kind of hot.
I'm talking about just hot because it's just stressful situations. Maybe it's work, maybe it's schedules like it was for us yesterday. Maybe it's an increase in family needs where now you have a dependent parent if you're in our age category, or you have young children, whatever it is.
Or you got the grandkid that you never expected to have to raise.
Right, and now you're raising a 3-year-old at the age of 60.
Yeah,
right?
Which is not the plan.
No, you just don't have the energy for that. Your spouse might be tired, and suddenly something that normally wouldn't trigger you or wouldn't normally cause a blow up now is creating heat in an environment. And so how do you rectify? How do you turn the thermostat down?
Yeah. And here's the thing. How do you turn the thermostat down in your pressure or in your temperature, but not turn the thermostat down on your marriage? Because they're not the same. We don't need to be heated. We don't need to have heated conversations, but we do need to keep the heat or the spark in our relationship. So how do I turn the temperature down on the pressure and on the expectations without turning down the love and the spark that we do need to keep our marriage going?
Because if you can learn how to control the temperature, then you can keep things from going out of control.
Yeah.
Right. And there are situations where the heat has to come up, in order to get something corrected. But if you notice that it's going from simmering to boil, then you need to make an adjustment. And if you've been married any length of time, whether it's 30 minutes or 30 years, you can somewhat determine when your spouse is starting to get a little, the conversation is getting challenging. Let me say it like that.
It's getting a little choppy.
Yeah, it's getting a little choppy in here. And when you see that, that's God's grace giving you an opportunity to back up.
Turn the corner.
Turn the heat down, or whatever you need to do so that you can make sure that even in heated situations, you remain calm and cool.
Well, I think about it from this perspective. Kansas Leadership Center talks about turning up the heat, asking those questions where you get to that productive zone. But anytime you get past the productive zone, if you push past that space where we can really have good conversation, where we can be productive with each other, then you're at a place of boiling. And that is not a place. Nobody likes to boil. Nobody wants to be in a place where they're boiling. And so, when we really are looking at that, we have to be careful. And so sometimes when we are in that maybe not so productive. We're getting to the end of our productive zone. We're moving into that boiling place. There's that piece in which sometimes our response will be short, and our response will be something like, I'm fine. When we're asked, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Or, if the response isn't the way you want it, then you'll just shut down, or you'll cut off, or you'll give some really snappy answer like, I'll just do it myself. When in reality, what you really don't, that's not really what you want. You really want help, or you really want a solution, but because the temperature is raised, and it might not even be your partner who's raising the temperature, but because your temperature has been elevated, the fact that they did not give you the exact answer that you wanted will snap off a fine, or snap off a, oh, well, whatever, I'll just do it. Or any of those quick responses that don't necessarily create an atmosphere in which you can have a good conversation.
Yeah, I'm pretty big on, I just handle it myself. I say that quickly because at some point I'm just like, look, I don't have time. I'll just take care of it myself. But sometimes when people say they're fine, they're not really fine. It's just a word that they're using to try and de-escalate the situation. And so sometimes fine doesn't always mean fine. And that's the part you have to recognize in knowing your spouse. You got to know when what they're saying and how they're responding might be different, and the difference between the two, right? And instead of pushing harder in the area of this conflict, you need to back up and maybe evaluate what you're going to say before you say it.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about what you're thinking about?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. Have you ever
Joyce
thought about
Myers
what you're
talks about that all the time. Think about what you're thinking about before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, because eventually it's going to come out, and it could come out radically wrong, and that could create more friction. So, and hey, you should always be able to recognize when the emotional temperature is going up. Okay, I think anybody who has a conscience and has some kind of ability to think and reason,
well, and to read your body language,
right, can recognize when a situation is starting to get heated, and sometimes the answer is not to say, well, what's wrong with you? Though we all do that, but perhaps you could diffuse that a little bit by saying, instead of saying what's wrong with you, hey, what can I do to make your day better? Seems like you're having a bad day.
Are you okay?
Make it better? Yeah. Are you okay? Now, for fellas, we probably ain't gonna say, are you okay? But
I mean, I think sometimes it is a good thing. Are you okay? I mean, which tells me that you have recognized that my persona is not normal. And I think you probably don't say, are you okay? Because you don't really want the word vomit that is going to happen from, I'm not okay. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm never finna ask you, are you okay? I'll ask you maybe, how are you doing? But boy, yes, sir, because you need to sit down for an hour, get you a picnic lunch, because we finna have a long conversation. Oh, Lord. By the time she's okay, I'm not okay. My head about to explode. Shoot.
Whatever.
Anyway. But just recognize, when you need to defuse and ask your spouse, hey, what can I like the phrase, what can I do to make your day easier? Seem like you're having a rough day. What can I do? Because that way your spouse is actually giving you some direction, and you can't mess up if it's their direction, right?
This is true.
So, when I make a statement, it
takes the pressure off.
Yeah, because now you can tell me what you want me to do instead of me guessing.
That's true.
And that might be just, hey, I just need to be alone for a minute. Cool. But that's a way to diffuse, all right? Because you got to recognize in a marriage and also as human beings, we all have limits, right? Sometimes the problem isn't a major event. It's just a little hiccup along the way. But if it's not taken care of, it can turn into something major. Sometimes just a small problem begins to accumulate. That's what rust does in an automobile, right? A little bit of water gets in there, you don't get it out. and eventually you got a hole in your floor, like I do on my old truck right
Right.
now. You know, you can see the street. You know,
That
and
was my first car. It felt like a
yeah,
Flintstone
yeah.
car.
And I mean, now can it be fixed? Yes, but along with replacing the metal, you need to seal it so that water's no longer getting in there.
Hmm.
Because one thing happens, then another thing happens, and another thing's happening,
Yeah.
and before you realize it, you got this big hole in your relationship. You don't know how it got there. You don't know how it began, and for some reason, you can't figure out how to make it stop.
Hmm.
Now we got problems.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And when we think about it, just, from a simple perspective, like a pot of water, when we put it on the stove, it's just a regular pot of water. We turn on the heat, and it doesn't immediately go from cold to boiling instantly. It's that thing that's just happening over time. What do you have to do? Our marriages can be that same way. It's the little pressure, little disappointments, little exhaustion. I'm tired. I haven't slept well. I haven't been eating right. We can pretty much tell when we're off because we're craving stupid stuff, cookies and ice cream and chips and random just stupid stuff.
Well, I don't know if chips is a craving. I think chips is a right.
No, actually, crunchy, salty is a craving.
Is it?
Yes.
I thought it was a constitutional right for me to eat some jalapeno chips.
No,
Really?
crunchy, salty is one of the craving areas. And so when we think about that, it's just those little things, those little resentments that can happen. You didn't help me with here, or you saw me have all these groceries and you didn't even bother to open the door. You were standing right there. You didn't think you needed to help me. And so sometimes it's those things that have been that tape that we've been playing in our head, that whole, and it's that little water that's in there, and it begins to boil and it begins to boil and it begins to boil. Well, I think all of us have cooked pasta at some point, and if we weren't careful, it boiled over. Or maybe oatmeal, which is a real good example. When we cook that oatmeal, and if we're not careful, it'll boil over.
Mm-hmm.
And that same little water or that same pot that boiled over can also make all of the liquid come out and burn dry.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're not careful and we're not doing all of the things that we need to do to build ourselves, to instruct ourselves, to really oil our relationship, it can boil dry. Mm-hmm. And so what was meant to be something beautiful really can mess up. And have you ever boiled a pot dry and then tried to go back and scrub it out? It's difficult.
Right. It's difficult because it's been etched in. So the question becomes, what has been etched in your memory?
Woo! That you can't let go of.
You just seem to not be able to let go. It follows you around, it chases you around or whatever. But you have to know what turns up the heat, right? And one of the healthiest things you can do in a marriage is to learn your own triggers. We talk about this quite often. Learn what triggers you, what irritates you, what turns up your temperature. And it's different for different individuals. You know, I mean, if you feel ignored or criticized, or it could be money or being rushed, or you're not getting enough rest from, for me, I mean, I don't like, if I'm talking to somebody, I expect a response. You know what I'm saying? I don't like being ignored. You're going to ignore me once or twice, and you ain't got to worry about it again. I promise you, I'm going to ghost you. I will ghost you like, oh my God. I mean, I'll erase your number. Tell them. I refute no, because I think that, if a person is courteous
high
enough
on your value list.
That's high on my value list. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to, return my phone call, or at least respond or do something. I mean, I'm not just calling you because for the heck of it. I mean, I do have a few people like that, but for the most part, I'm calling because we need to get something done or accomplished. Yeah. Right.
And sometimes when we feel unappreciated or we feel like we are being devalued, then we will pull away. We'll pull away. We'll cut off communication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes we don't necessarily realize that we're doing it. And so I think sometimes in a relationship you can be going 1,000 miles an hour and you don't realize it always. But I think that's where the communication really becomes important. How do I make sure that you understand, hey, we had a conversation on the other day and I don't feel like I was validated or I was appreciated in this, or things happened. I think we can all have misunderstandings and we can all have situations that our feelings, how I feel about what happened and how I walk away from the situation may not necessarily be what you were trying to do, but it's how it hit me. Again, going back to, do I know my triggers? Do I know those things? Do I know the situations that when you say XYZ will immediately make me go back to feeling like I was that 6-year-old kid?
Right. And so, once you figure those things out, then you should know how to avoid them, or at least put some blocks in place. Because part of maturity is being able to say, I'm already stressed today. I'm already dealing with some stuff. I'm already tired. And the other half of maturity is your spouse being able to accept that as the answer. You know what I'm saying? And then give you the necessary space that you need. I mean, we obviously,
now again, that don't mean that you get 2 weeks of space.
Right. No, I agree with that 100%, because we obviously communicate differently. I mean, just in this presentation, my wife talks a lot faster than what I do. I'm gonna talk more slow. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna talk a little bit more. I don't know if I would say I wouldn't call it calm. It's just
more deliberate.
More deliberate in my. And you know why? Let me say it like this: because I have discovered that words are valuable and words are expensive, and you don't just scatter expensive stuff around. This is a good lesson for anybody.
It is.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Listen, people will talk all the time. I'm not saying that people who talk for a living. I'm talking about people that just are of the Jacobite clan. The Jacobites.
They were the other part of
They were like
Bible.
the Jebusites, the Hivites and the Lehites. They were the Jacobites. Okay, people that are part of the Jacobite clan that just talk all the time. In my opinion, your words aren't valuable enough. If you got valuable things to say, you don't just strew it out to everybody. These are my opinions. Okay, so yeah, I mean, in relationships, sometimes when you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to communicate that. You need to have. Sometimes you got to place the conversation on hold, but then you need to pick it back up.
And that's the important part. You got to pick it back up.
Pick it back up. Yeah, don't just put it on hold indefinitely. You know how you put somebody on cell phone, put them on hold, you forget they're there, and you done talk for 45 minutes.
Over to the other people.
But now here's the crazy thing: they still waiting on you. You mean you never hung up? Oh, bro, I'm sorry about that.
Because you would have hung up in 2.5. If you don't come back in 2.5, you're gone.
Well, yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, listen, hey, I'm going to tell you like this. The older you get, the more you understand how valuable time is.
I agree.
Because you reach an age where you've got more years behind you than you have in front.
I agree.
And that could be at the age of 40. Okay, I'm 61, but at 40, you getting to the point where you got more years behind you than what you have in front. And so time becomes valuable. So you don't want to waste it. You don't want to squander it. And you don't want to you put forth the effort on something that's not going to pay off. I'll say it like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you could be feeling overwhelmed. The conversation might not be going right. As long as you learn to go back and revisit it and reestablish that level of communication, you can get through it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things when we talk about that maturity piece is, instead of making your spouse pay for the feelings they didn't create, tell them what you're carrying. Hey, I think, again, going back to the conversation that we had this weekend, you were frustrated. There was a lot of things going on. There have been a lot of things happen over the weekend, not necessarily with us, but just that related to both of us. And so, the fact that you were like, hey, I'm just tired, I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, hey, go take a nap. Like, it's cool. You do not have to entertain me. Go take a nap. Go do what you need to do. And sometimes we feel like we need to be there and we need to, provide, for lack of a better term, entertainment for our spouse. And sometimes you just need to disconnect, not in a bad way, not in a I don't love you way, but I just need to go and recharge my battery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We do it with technology. How do we feel like it's okay for me to go and recharge my technology, but it's not okay for me to recharge my own personal battery?
That's good.
I need to sometimes. Sometimes I need to disconnect. Sometimes I need to restart. Okay. We do that with our phone. We turn it off. We hit the restart button. Why? Because we get that little message that says, if you will restart it, it will help you to function better. That's supposed to be what happens when we go to sleep. When we go to sleep, we wake up, we're supposed to be recharged. We're supposed to be refreshed. We're supposed to be ready to rock and roll. But sometimes our brains don't shut off while we're sleeping and we don't get the opportunity. Or that situation that we were having a discussion about is ruminating in my mind. And I'm thinking about all of the sides. I should say this and I should say that. I didn't sleep. So those things often will rob us of that recharge time. So it's never a bad thing for me to say, you know what? I think I just need to get a recharge. I'm gonna disappear for an hour, 2 hours. I can't tell you the last time I went to the mall. I cannot tell you, except this weekend. I don't know. I did something weird to my back, and so I was like, let me just go get one of those, cheap massages that you get at the mall. It was amazing. Like, it was the best $60 I've ever spent in my life. And I was like, I don't like to come to the mall, but how can I figure out how to do this a little bit more, because it made my body feel good. And sometimes we just need to figure, are there those things? Can I just take out an hour and go get a massage, or go sit by the water, or go to my favorite hunting spot, or go to my favorite, ice cream parlor. I don't necessarily have to get ice cream to sit there, or go to my favorite coffee spot. What do I need to do to recharge my battery? As I understand my triggers, I also have to understand what are my ways in which I recharge.
But if you're recharging your battery and you're at that favorite whatever spot, don't schedule 50 meetings. I'm just straight up. You're supposed to be sitting here relaxing, but you bring your laptop, or you bring your phone, or you bring whatever it is that keeps you engaged, right? And so even though you say you're supposed to be relaxing, you never really do, because you're still fully engaged. Sometimes you have to leave technology and some things at home or on the shelf.
I think that's the beautiful thing about the massages, because like at the place, they immediately are like, here, lay down, put your stuff in this box, your phone, your purse, your everything, put it in this box and lay your behind down. You can't see nothing.
That's good. That's good, because that way you actually are engaged in the moment. And that's the problem. One of the problems I see in society now, even with married couples, is we're never engaged in the moment. And so the moments slip past us. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not engaged, then you don't realize how precious moments can be.
Yeah.
Until you don't have any more of them.
I agree.
Right? So, sometimes your spouse really isn't the problem. A lot of times your spouse isn't the problem. They're just simply the closest person to you that you can vomit on. or they're the relief point.
Yeah.
Or where the pressure comes out. And let me say this too, because sometimes you do need to have that conversation to release some stress, but you need to learn how to not elevate your voice, because remember, you are communicating with your spouse to relieve some of the pressure, but they are not the pressure point. So they don't need the elevated voice and conversation and heated stuff that is coming out of your mouth, because they're not responsible for that.
So I think it has to be both. So I would say that I think you have to have a conversation of, hey, I need to vent. And venting might look like whatever it looks like.
Mhm.
I might need to scream, I might need to yell, I might need to do a couple of pirouettes while we're having this conversation because I need to get it all out so
Mhm.
that um I'm not misbehaving in spaces that don't understand,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So I think you have to preface the conversation by what this looks like. So it may look like a yelling, screaming, crying sort of, but you just have to know that going into it that I'm gonna let all the emotions fly. Again, this isn't you. I just need a spot to vent,
Mhm.
and I need to know that you are my safe place.
Right.
Because what
Right.
you don't need is for your safe place to be somebody that's not in your relationship.
Right. Because they'll try and pretend like they're a safe place, but they got a hidden agenda. Let's just call it like it is. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes, I mean, you literally have to say, uh, I was just trying to encourage you,
Mm-hmm.
or I was just trying to say something to make you feel better, or literally, what am I really upset about? And that's an internal question that you got to
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself. What am I upset about? And that is a very powerful marriage question because once you find out what you're upset about, especially if it's internal, then you can figure out how to deal with it so that you don't take something that's internal and make it and give it an external target, which
Mm-hmm.
would be your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was a book came out, oh, it's been years ago, but the five love languages and everybody. It was a good book. I ain't gonna lie. Everybody was on it. Everybody was reading it, and then what they do, they turned it into a series, and then they turned it into the five love languages for dogs and your cat's five love languages. I ain't mad at you. Capitalize on your paper, man. Capitalize on it. But we hear often a lot about love languages, and couples need to understand not only your love language but your stress language too.
Mm.
Because you communicate that also,
Yeah,
right? When you're
I
stressed
agree.
out, you speak stress language,
Yep.
and if your spouse doesn't understand it, then they can be offended by it. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And
Yeah.
then when you're overwhelmed, you need to recognize, okay, what language am I speaking right now?
Yeah. And do I need to talk? Do I need to just go find a book and sit down? I was it Our weather is kind of doing some weird shifting, and so some nights it's kind of cool. Can you go
Mm-hmm.
outside and just find a spot and read, or find a spot to really just get some of this stuff out of you? Maybe I need help taking something off my plate. Maybe I need to, because sometimes my spouse can see things that I don't see. And so
Right.
maybe there's something that we're doing or not doing that we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need to incorporate taking a walk instead of, watching TV or eating something that we don't necessarily need to. But what do we need to do? Um what is the response that we need in times of stress and times of situation when the heat is turned on? We don't want it to boil over, but we've got to have some mechanisms in place so that when that boiling begins to happen, we can put that wooden spoon on top.
Mm.
Y'all know, if y'all cook, you know what I'm talking about. We can put that wooden spoon on top of that pot so that it does not boil over.
Really, a wooden spoon? A pot won't boil with a wooden spoon in it?
Yeah, over it.
Just sitting over the top of it like that.
Mhm.
Let me Google this.
How about you
Pot,
finish the
oh,
talk?
okay. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Sometimes you need to tell yourself, hey, look, I need a few minutes to clear my head. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't want to have a conversation with you. I don't want to converse with you. But right now, I just need to clear my head, get rid of some thoughts, get rid of some frustrations so that we can begin again anew.
Yeah,
Right?
but make sure that you're communicating that.
Mm-hmm.
Every disagreement does not have to be finished right now. Sometimes you're too hot, you're too in the moment, you're too in the weeds to see really how do we deal with this in a rational way that really does help both of us. And so how do we take the heat out of it? How do we take the pressure out of it for the moment? Sometimes we need to take a break. Sometimes we need to go to our separate corners. Sometimes, you know, we might need to go take a walk or take a run or get, you know, some water, or, you know, cool ourselves down. What do we need to do? But again, we have to communicate what that is. Hey, I'm going to go take a walk and I'll be back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with that. But sometimes when you take those walks, you got to be careful because sometimes you're really taking a walk mentally so that you can develop
Yeah,
ammunition.
you're,
So you got to
yeah,
be careful about that.
yeah,
But
I agree.
the truth of the matter is, if both of you are yelling, then nobody's listening, right? If both of you are talking, if both of you are interrupting, then the communication process is not going efficiently and effectively, right? So sometimes you got to close your mouth, let your spouse finish, and then you can ask them, okay. I mean, there's some words that you can phrase it. I wouldn't say, "Are you finished talking now?" Because that's kind of rough, right? But you know, I was dealing with a situation with a tenant the other day, and I said, "Okay, can I have a can I talk now?" You know, I didn't say it quite that nice, but I did say, I mean, because okay, let's get some ground rules here,
Right.
you know, because
Because
if
if
you're
we're
both,
having a conversation, then both of
then
us
both
should
of us
have
need
time.
yeah, a time to talk, right? Otherwise, nobody's listening, and we're both hurting one another, and the conversation isn't productive anymore because now it's going into a little bit more banging.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And so there's just some pieces that we really don't want to have happen in the in the banging time.
Right.
There's a difference between taking a healthy break and giving someone the silent treatment. When we think about the silent treatment, I'm going to withhold connection until you suffer long enough. If we and we've all been there, those
True.
are not the same thing. You know, it's not the same thing to get into a place where I just need to, you know, think and process, because we all process differently and we all process in a different amount of time. You know, some people, you know, are able to rapid fire, and it doesn't matter what you send to them, they got something, they got a response. And then there's some people that you know will throw that to, and it takes them 30 minutes to process that or to really think through, okay, what's a viable response, especially if they're trying to give you a response that is not volatile.
Right.
And so we have to acknowledge that each of us does not process the exact same way. And you know, if I'm really trying to honor your feelings, maybe a rapid response is not the best response.
Yeah, that could be true. And sometimes the cooling down part gives you the opportunity to mellow out and reconnect. Right. Um, Here's something that I learned as a husband. When I'm under pressure, I have to be careful not to make everybody else feel my pressure. Right. Number one. Number two, just because something is heavy doesn't mean I have permission to put the heavy piece on my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In other words, you can't just offload stuff. Sometimes I simply need to say, hey, today has been a lot and I just need some process time. That little statement can prevent misunderstanding. It can prevent a conversation from escalating into something that it shouldn't be. All right. Maybe you need to talk with Jesus.
Yeah.
He can make it all right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. um I, I think the thing too is that here's where my heart is. Grace and boundaries can exist in the same marriage. I can recognize that my husband is stressed and still say, I understand you're frustrated, but let's not talk to each other in that particular manner. Love doesn't require us to accept disrespect on either of our parts. I can't be disrespectful and he can't either. And being stressed doesn't give either spouse permission to become cruel. And so that's one of the things we want to leave you with today. Our scripture is Proverbs 15:1. It says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And so when we think about our time together, when we think about, and you go back and you think about this time that we've been here today, we want to make sure that we are not turning up the heat to a place where we are not productive and that we are not doing what we need to do.
right, right. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, just recognize that support that you need or that you desire from your spouse can come, and don't make it become additional pressure. Just recognize that I need some support to help carry this weight right now. Recognize that sometimes you need some space, some clarity, so you can get an understanding. And recognize sometimes that the connection always has to be through compassion.
Yeah.
So we must connect through compassion.
Yeah. When the temperature rises, may you remember you're not enemies, you're partners. You're not fighting against each other. You're fighting for what you've built. May your marriage be a place of peace in a world that can already be pretty hot.
Right. And as we always say, ladies and gentlemen, because got a little long-winded today.
No, we did.
Yeah. Until next time, hey, you know what to do. Keep building your marriage and your relationship with faith, fun,
and forever love.
And forever love. What else? Practice making babies.
Yeah, I'm never going to say that.
I'm always going to say that.
Thank you for watching, and make sure that you join us on YouTube and our webpage, Marriage Encounters with Bill and Michelle at Weebly.com.